Pardon me while I have a strange interlude.
There is nothing else. Life is an obscure hobo bumming a ride on the omnibus of art.
Along the misty corridors of time, and in those corridors I see figures, strange figures.
Welcome back, my friends, to the AP Strange Show. I am your host, AP Strange. This is my show, and today's show is brought to you by Disclosure brand antacids. Is ontological shock giving you heartburn? Is the being on the tenterhooks of the imminent disclosure giving you gas pains or other stomach-borne maladies? Take Disclosure brand antacids to help you through these very weird times. And today we're going to not really be talking about disclosure so much because, damn, that shit's boring. So I brought in two of my favorite people to talk to about some of the more esoteric angles on non-human intelligence and flying saucers. We'll probably get into astral vehicles and microbiomes as forms of intelligence and stuff like that. So welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show to you both, Stephanie Quick and Rachel Nelson. Welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
I don't know why I sounded like I was that alien that was being tortured in Disclosure. I'm like, hi.
Oh. Did you watch the movie, Steph?
No, I just watched a bunch of kind of spoiler YouTube.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay.
But
Right.
yeah. So have any of us seen that movie?
Nope.
No.
Nope. I went and saw Backrooms, and it was great. The theater was fairly empty because I think a lot of people were going to see Disclosure Day instead.
Nice.
So nice to have the theater to yourself, kind of.
Yeah, especially for a movie like that, I feel like it probably helps being alone watching a movie about being alone. I mean, it's not really about being alone, but
Well, actually, it is. That's funny. I didn't know if you'd seen it, but that's like a theme in it is like this alienation and being alone thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw
yeah.
the series, the YouTube series, but I haven't seen the movie yet.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was pretty good, but I don't want to get too off topic with that. But but speaking of being tortured, the tortured alien thing is well, I feel like the whole narrative around disclosure and what's been going on is a tortured conversation at this point, and it's well past that because we're coming in on like a decade since the New York Times article, which is kind of wild to think about, right?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Wow.
And all that time, disclosure has been right around the corner. I mean, it goes back further than that, but yeah. So
yeah, wasn't John talking about that in the Great Disclosure book, in the Great Book of Disclosure, Revelation?
John, oh yeah. Well, there is like I mean, there's a weird religiosity to that. You know, I call it like disclosureism. I think so. There's something to be said for that.
There is there is a weird religiosity to it. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Well, it's become just explicit, especially the last few years, because you have, I think, probably one of the first big media things where they were really making the tie-in with the religiosity was Dr. Pasulka's American Cosmic, where she's talking about Tim Tyler, and then he is in contact with the aliens and drawing inspiration from their text. So he's very Silicon Valley, but at the same time, he wants to go to the Vatican because the Vatican has all this information that maps onto current day alien contact, right? And going more forward with like the Archives of the Impossible, Dr. Kreipel, because he's very interested in, he's like a professor of religion. as well as looking at these strange experiences. And so, how does that interact? And then, like Disclosure Day, this movie right now, I mean, that this conversation has been building, but Disclosure Day is very explicitly talking about, they have, I guess, one character who's an ex-nun, and everyone's like, oh, how are you going to do with your faith about if there's actually aliens? And I don't know. First of all, it kind of cracked me up because I've known a few ex-nuns personally, and they're all like excruciatingly practical on a like a materialist basis.
Yeah.
Also, I saw an article in the Times or something. They quoted Dr. Kripal. I don't know if they took him out of context, but he's like, we're wondering how, if disclosure happens, how will it affect religious people and people who having to examine their faith? And it's like, have you heard? I don't know why a religious professor would not know that, for example, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has explicitly addressed the idea of human intelligence, non-human intelligence on different planets, and many worlds being populated out there in outer space for I don't know how long.
Right.
The Catholic Church has come out with positions, I don't know, a decade or so ago about what was even, I forget which pope it was, said, yeah, if an alien asked, I baptize them, sure, no problem. So it's like all
Yeah, I
these
think that
major.
was Francis, but that doctrine goes back to like the 70s. I think I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure that that's been Catholic, the Catholic position for a long time. Is like there's no reason there can't be life on other planets, and God would create that too. Like so. No big deal. you know.
and it shocked me that you have this professor of religion who you think would be, before speaking like that, looking at, okay, can we go on DuckDuckGo and look up Catholic Church position on alien life,
Right.
in 5 minutes.
Oh, I was gonna say, well, it's discouraging in on the one hand, just because it seems lazy that this stuff doesn't get recognized, but also the idea that people are think it's a new and novel thing that academics and people from religious perspectives are looking at this, and it's like we've always, I mean, as long as there's been a flying saucer phenomenon, we've had people looking at it from a more mystical or religious angle, and we've had plenty of scholars of religion looking at this and academics looking at it for a long, long time. This isn't new, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
What was the one, When Prophecy Fails, Festinger's book of
Right.
sociology, studying.
Oh,
Yeah, that was a flying saucer cult. They were channeling information from aliens.
The
And
hmm
Ethereans. No, was it the Ethereans? I think so.
I forget the name of them, who they were. But yeah, so this and that book was written, they did that field work in the 50s or 60s, so this is not a new thing. That's
And I mean, there's always been kind of like a spiritualist sort of strain because like with the contactees, like George Adamski, and I mean there's a lot of contactees early on back in the day. And I mean you also had like there's that song like it's from 1947 and it was like a popular like country song
Yeah.
about the flying saucers coming, right?
Yeah. When
you've
you
read.
see those flying saucers, the
Yep.
Buchanan
Mhm.
brothers. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't know what their intention was with making that song. It might have been kind of jokey or something, but it definitely places flying saucers in very much an apocalyptic Christian um, context for sure.
Right. They're saying it'll be Judgment Day when the saucers come in the
hmm
lyrics, right? So
hmm Yeah, yeah, it's very explicit.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
there's also like I mean it goes back earlier than that too because there's airship inventors and stuff like that who were very influenced by spiritualist and other like religious ideas and stuff like that for sure.
yeah, and it goes back further if you look at like a Dweller on Two Worlds with
hmm
written by Philo the Tibetan channeled text, or
Oh,
way further back to Emanuel Swedenborg. Um,
yep. Yeah.
he was literally talking about flying around and meeting entities on other planets. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And he was a Christian mystic, really, prior to
hmm
that. So, yeah,
hmm
Yeah,
and
I want
and
to
the Swedenborgian thought informed a lot of new religious movements in the United States. You know, it formed the basis for a lot of that. So,
hmm
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
There's also a lot of indigenous. Recently, I've been thinking more people in the Southwest, but indigenous North American peoples and cultures, and they have traditions of people that come from the stars, right?
yeah,
Star
So
people. Yeah.
yeah,
Sky people. Yeah.
yeah, Earth people and stuff. It's one of the things that kind of bothers me sometimes about people trying thinking they're going to try and be a little skeptical about UFOs and saying, well, you know, why would people think that it's, from outer space? And it's like, okay, so someone is describing that they looked up into the sky, saw this light, it came down closer, landed, people got out, the creatures said, we're from outer space at this star system over here, and then they left.
right,
It's like probably that's why they think that it's only reasonable
yeah,
at that. But but yeah, it's kind of frustrating, and it's frustrating too, like you both of you pointed out that these ideas go back way farther. And
hmm
even with I was reviewing my notes on Mead Lane and the Borderland Sciences Foundation, which was like kind of a quasi spiritualist, skeptical, uh, psychic research type of group that was formed, I think, in the 30s. But they uh, were very interested in psychic research and experimentation. And that one of the first things that they did was I think it was 1946, there was a big sighting in San Diego of a bunch of airships. And so their first idea was, why don't you go outside and try and make psychic contact with the airships,
right,
which they could have done. So even from like the
That's cool.
just historical Kenneth Arnold era, it's always been this strain of psychic connection and contactees and stuff. So
yeah, and other organisms like even Kenneth Arnold had suggested at one point that UFOs might be flying organisms in the sky, like living things. You know, so but
hmm
um, but Mead Lane is certainly interesting in Borderland Sciences. Um, because he really promoted the idea of like he called them ether ships, I think, right?
that's exactly.
Right, and but it's almost like the astral vehicle that you sometimes talk about stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar. And his ideas are kind of reminiscent of Eugenia Macer Story's ideas too, because there's this idea that you have like a reality that is not perceptible to our senses as it normally exists. But then during certain times, it can kind of crystallize in a way that will become perceptible to our visual senses or our hearing senses. Um, and that's what he thought about the ether ships. Um, there are certain strange well, especially I think meteorological phenomena are interesting to look at in this type of light as a way of kind of trying to get your mind around some of these concepts. Because if you have a whirlwind, we get those in California more than actual tornadoes, but just like a dust devil is what we call them. Because yeah, you
Hmm.
can't see the wind moving, you're just seeing everything that is moving in the wind, like the
hmm
dust and the garbage and the trees. Or we had a terrible one here in the Great Central Valley a few years ago where people were having kind of outside fairs, so they had some like awnings and stuff set up, but they also had a couple of porta potties
Oh no.
ripped from their moorings tumbling through
Oh.
space. Some of the most horrible things. But again, once again, it's kind of similar to the ether ship idea in that we just because we can't visually see the wind doesn't mean that it's not happening. And you can see by these associated effects, for example, the blue liquid tumbling out of the thing, right? Um, Yeah, so I think that Meade had this idea that you'd have these ether ships, and that most of the time they would be invisible to us, but that they had ways of kind of cranking things up or tweaking things where they would then become the actual phenomena itself would become visual to the naked eye.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
don't
I
know,
mean
but
that gets into like the Trevor James Constable stuff as well, where he would try to use infrared photography and different things to capture the sky critters because they weren't on a spectrum that we could see with the naked eye. But if you just rejiggered the camera a little bit, you can maybe get a picture of them. I never found any of his photos too convincing. Some of them are pretty cool looking, but
They do look cool, but they're not
yeah.
convincing. Well, I prepared a bunch of notes that are kind of related to this, but I have to like figure out how to relate it exactly. But, well, because basically I started writing about I wanted to talk about owls, and I was comparing owls to Jean Jacket from the movie Nope, and Jean Jacket is sort of like one of these sky critters.
Right.
Um, uh, but and also this is kind of I think this relates a lot to our discussion of Disclosure Day as well, because I think Nope, the more I think about it, the more I think that it's actually a response to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I think that that
Huh.
was Jordan Peele's answer to that movie, basically. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah.
Like, and I think that I actually like Nope a lot better, which people are going to hate me for that because I mean, yeah, I know Close Encounters, it's a beautiful movie. I love it, but Nope
Hmm.
is, I think, a far superior movie.
Yeah. You just hate mashed potatoes, don't you?
I just hate mashed potatoes. Yeah. But yeah, I think that what's interesting though is that this idea of the religiosity of like the sort of religious fetishization of the flying saucer definitely shows up as a clear narrative thread in this movie, and he deals with it in a couple of different ways using different using the arc of Stephen Yoon's character primarily, you know, because he's this character who believes from a young age that he has this kind of miraculous connection to other non-human intelligences, specifically the chimpanzee, you know,
Right.
that goes crazy and kills all these people, but doesn't kill him.
Right.
And he thinks that that has to do maybe with aliens or something. It's not exactly explicitly stated in the film, but through the but what is expressed, I think, visually is that he has this kind of he carries a kind of belief that he has a special connection to the world, and then that manifests again in the form of Jean Jacket, who he believes he, you know, again has this spiritual psychic connection to or something like that, when in reality it's just literally just a predatory animal
Right.
there to like eat whatever animal like prey that it's able to find.
Right.
Um, and what's really interesting about Jean Jacket too is that it has this crazy threat display where it like opens up and then there's like a green square, right?
Mhm.
Um, that and that green square, I'm calling it a threat display because I'm kind of like trying to interpret Jean Jacket as a character and like understand what it's doing, how it's motivated. And I think that's what's going on is that it feels threatened, um, but it's also like on the attack, you know, during this sequence in the movie. But so this display that it does is a metaphor I think, for the spectacle of Hollywood, and because you see the green square, it shows up again and again in the movie,
Hmm.
and I think Jordan Peele's even explicitly talked about this. But basically, um, this this creature is using spectacle in order to manipulate psychologically its prey. It's not doing this consciously, probably. It probably just doing it instinctively,
Hmm.
right? And this is very much like a barn owl, I think, because barn owls, there's a study that was done a few years ago where they looked at they were trying to figure out if the white plumage on some barn owls made a difference, in terms of hunting success,
Hmm.
basically. And so they measured the hunting success of these barn owls, the of barn owls with white plumage versus ones with red plumage on the undersides of their bodies. And found that the ones with the white plumage were more successful. And I think they did like experiments with voles and using like taxidermied owls with different plumage colors as well to see if they would respond differently. But basically, yeah, what the study found overall is that it seems that there is, in fact, that barn owls with white plumage on the bottom of their bodies are actually more successful during full moon hunting than ones that don't, basically.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean and there's some really great film like videos of barn owls doing this where like they use like slow motion camera and stuff like that with like lighting and stuff like that so that it's all set up in an ideal way where you can see the owl like pouncing on its prey and it kind of does this thing where it like swoops in and then it opens up kind of and then that startles the vole, right?
Right. Yeah, and that hesitation due to the startling is just enough to, you know,
Yeah,
that
just
it doesn't get away. Yeah. So,
like
right.
exactly. Yeah. And
Huh.
as far as I know, I mean, I think because owls don't live that long, they're not like spending years, learning skills like humans do. The way that owls learn how to hunt, they do it largely instinctively. Like it's
Mhm.
basically, largely prepackaged and then they kind of learn it in a very short period of time. So it's like, I think, uh, I think what I'm getting at is that a lot of what things do in nature um, in terms of sending out signals, right?
Mhm.
There's no like intention there. It's just them trying to like, it's just like some evolved form of some critter just trying to like, eat food or whatever, right?
Well, right. Yeah, I mean, it's like it makes sense for the thing that they need to do to survive, right?
hmm
It's the, it's just one instinctual. Like if you got an itch on your head, you're not sending a signal to other people by scratching your head. You know,
That's
that gesture
true.
can mean something, but it's like instinctively you already know how to handle that. You don't need to be taught, right? That something itches, you
Yeah.
just scratch it. You know, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, I think what you're getting to here is something that really drives me nuts in general with people, but when we talk about the phenomena and non-human intelligence, is the tendency that people have to anthropomorphize everything. And
hmm
it's hard not to do because the limits of language, sometimes you would want to say things like, it does this in order to trick the vole, and it's like, well, no, I mean, I don't know that owls possess a concept of trickery. They
Yeah.
just know what works, and that this instinctual move always worked for them, so they just keep doing it, right?
I have to raise my hand here.
Well,
Go ahead.
maybe that was a
Murderous,
bad example,
Sorry.
but
No, it's not a bad example. It is what it is that this is something that where DNA has changed the view on certain, especially like songbirds, but I think some other birds' ability to deceive.
Mhm.
Because people, when bird watching began, and even before that, people always loved watching birds, and especially songbirds. Um, you have the courtship, you have the intense bonding between the male and female pair. They build their nest together. They both help raise the babies, right? You have this courtship displays. They feed each other. The male comes and helps the female on the nest and all this type of stuff. And as bird behavior science grew in the 20th century, you have a lot of studies where you'll find a certain area where there's going to be, let's say, Wilson's warblers nesting. And so you set up your mist nets in the early morning and you band these birds with colored bands so that when you look at them, you can say, oh, this is the one with a purple band on their left foot. This is the female with two green bands on her right leg, right?
Mhm.
So you can tell the individuals. Now, for decades, people would be observing paired birds on nests raising families together, and they weren't seeing any funny business, right? It
Mhm.
looked like that they're bonded, no screwing around, no sneaking around. They're not seeing anything, right? Then when DNA comes around, they're able to, do little DNA tests of the mom and the dad and the babies, and guess what? Those ladybirds and those daddy birds have been sneaking around, and the DNA told the tale.
Okay.
The thing is that if it had been something where the birds are just like, oh yeah, we just like mess around and no one cares, right? Then this would have been easily observable behavior to the people who are spending, like let's say 2 to 3 hours a day, every day for months observing these creatures, but they never managed to see any of this sneaking around behavior. And these are birds that are banded so that you can tell them individually.
Hmm.
So this is part of our, ongoing understanding of animal behavior, motivation, and consciousness, where people wouldn't have thought that, but I'm thinking, this, it's like cowbirds, right? They're not just like going in and laying an egg in another bird's nest when the other bird is there, right? They wait until the nest is unattended because they know on whatever level that they
Mhm.
Right.
need to be caught. The question is, like what level is this? I don't know, but I think deception, how conscious it is, I don't know, but deception definitely occurs.
I
Right.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there have been studies with crows about that too. I think where they will uh, I don't remember what it was now. Dang it. You made me think of it. And I hate it when I think of something like that and I don't remember
Well,
what it is exactly, but it had to do with crows like hiding things basically.
right.
And uh the ones that would steal stuff would be also more likely to like re-hide things basically or
Mhm.
hide them more cleverly basically. So
Mhm.
there wasn't just like it wasn't just that that the crows ha were using deception, but they also had a kind of theory of mind
Yeah.
around that deception.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've watched micros here, and they'll sit and observe the squirrel and watch them bury stuff, and then as soon as the squirrel goes away, they'll fly down and dig it up, like they'll pick it out of the ground. So they let the squirrel do all the work. Sometimes it's really funny.
That's funny. Yeah, I'll have to find that for you because I put together all of these references, and then that's not one of them.
Right. Well, we're free willing here. I mean, that's kind
We
of
are
that was the idea.
freewheeling.
But
Well,
I think
easy.
my broader point though is was animals have an intelligence that's very different from ours,
Yeah.
Yes.
and I think that there's a flaw in assuming that they have motivations or feelings the way we do, and it can go one way or another. Where they're literally are people that think animals have no emotions, which to me is absurd. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then there's other people that want to project human characteristics so much that it becomes really unrealistic. Um, so I think there's a
Mhm.
happy medium where you just have to understand that it's still intelligence. It's just a different kind. The perception is different. The emotionality of it is different. But there are places where we can meet with it, and that's why we have domesticated animals. um,
Yeah, yeah.
but still, I don't know what the hell my cat's thinking half the time. So
Oh, no. Yeah, I think a lot of it is just and this is something that gets me with the whole disclosure, and then also the people who are into the people who are skeptics, and then also the people who are like into like the UFOs as like mystical doorway or whatever. There's just like a lot that we don't know, and I find it more helpful to say that you don't, if you don't know what's going on, to just say, okay, we have this little bit where we think this is going on, and this is why we think this.
mhm,
But then we have a whole other huge area where we don't know what's going on. We don't know how to figure out what's going on. We just have to kind of leave it alone.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean,
I,
well, I have an unverified personal gnosis about that too, which I thought of earlier when Rachel was talking about the chimpanzee.
Mhm.
Well, I had this moment one day where I woke up out of a dead sleep and I was like, gorillas have something to teach us about contacting UFOs. And then I don't
mhm.
know where that thought came from. I just woke up with it in my head, and then I went back to bed, and I just remembered it the next day. So there's something about the way gorillas communicate and think about things that would make UFOs make sense. So I figured I'd throw that out there while while we're free willing here.
But the
Ah.
interesting
But
thing
we
to me,
can communicate with gorillas. We can teach them sign language and stuff. So
well, yeah,
Yeah, but not as well as you might think, though, is the
yeah,
thing. Because a
yeah.
lot of the research into that has actually been found to be pretty faulty. Um,
I don't,
so,
yeah, I don't know. I wonder because there's animals that we work with, right? I mean,
mhm,
like dogs is like one
yeah.
of the big main ones, right?
Hmm.
And part of the thing with dogs is that it's very individual and also varies by breed and also varies by training and the skill of the handlers,
Yeah,
what they learn and what the type of communication they can have with human beings can be. You know, like guide dogs for the blind. I mean, it's like an incredibly intimate,
Mhm,
yeah,
incredibly important, very highly intelligent. They're constantly having to go through decision trees. It's an intense communication with their person. They have to be aware of, the built environment, people, cars, all type of hazards. Um, so I I understand people wanting to be rigorous about these types of ideas about communication, but at the same time, if you look at just like working dogs as a class and as a whole,
yeah.
obviously there's a real intense communication can happen. Um,
Yeah, yeah. No, all I'm saying is that with like, for example, Coco the gorilla or something like
mhm,
that, you know, gorillas are very good at communicating with humans, but they don't demonstrate the syntax of
yeah,
sign language, is all I'm saying. That type of language, gorillas don't appear to have, basically. Um,
Okay.
and like what they'll do is they'll use a bunch of different signs, that they've been taught, and then they'll use them in a whole bunch of different orders, and
mhm.
then researchers will try to interpret that as though there's some form of syntax there, but really it's more like they're just like saying whatever they can to like get the kind of response that they want, sort
Yeah,
of
they're just
thing.
kind of throwing things against the wall until it works. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
but
And like,
I have a couple different ways I can go with this because I love this topic. This is why I had you both on, but this is because at first I just wanted to say that dogs with jobs are fascinating. I always
Mhm.
love a dog with a job, and at least some forms of dogs I think have alien DNA. Chihuahuas looking in your direction. Um, but to your point, Rachel, like when you're talking about just using various signs and hoping that they convey like, gee, I really want a snack. Like I'll keep trying these. Um,
Mhm.
but animals are communicating on so many more levels, and taking it back to dogs, it's just like peeing on stuff is a form of communication. Like and smelling
Yeah,
where other people peed on stuff, like thinking of dogs as people here, but that's a message delivery system. um uh, uh,
absolutely.
so that's a form of communication. So and it's foreign to us, and we can understand it intellectually, but we don't know what that sensory transmission is to them. Because in some animals, like rodents, they can tell a lot about the smell of the urine. Um,
Mhm.
there's a difference between like fear, sense, and that stuff, and pleasure. So they'll know whether or not to feel safe in an area based on how the urine droplets smell, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's really that's always really fascinated me too because like humans don't have a very acute sense of smell, but most other mammals that were around, like cats, dogs, and rodents, do have very acute sense of smell. So they must really interact with the world very differently to a certain degree.
right.
Um, there's
So
also
peeing on stuff might be the dog form of podcasting. Uh,
yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's very sophisticated too, like because animals leave various different odors and
right.
create various different odors from different parts of their bodies, and they also will leave trails, like cats leave like odor trails wherever they
Mhm.
walk, so you can see stuff just busting up. Okay, I'm just gonna keep talking.
Oh,
I,
this butt scooting thing on the carpet. You were
Oh
talking
yeah.
about rails. I'm like, yeah, we know that.
Well, right. Well, to your point too, like when cats are rubbing against you and like rubbing their face against your
Mhm.
leg and stuff, like that's adorable. And we're always like, "Oh, kitty loves me," but they're putting their scent on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wild cats are observed doing that to mark their territory. They'll just rub their saliva like on the side of a stone, so that if another puma comes by, they'll be able to smell it. Right. So yeah,
Yeah, and that's the thing is that cats and dogs like are actually communicating all the time. It's just that a lot of people don't really understand what it is that they're communicating and will just completely misinterpret it. And you see
yeah,
this all the time if you watch like videos on YouTube, like cat videos on YouTube, like I do. That you'll see this owner being like, "Oh, you're mad," or like you want this, like assigning these kind of like things onto what the animal's doing, and I'll be like, no, actually, that's not probably what they're thinking or doing. Like, you're just
yeah,
misinterpreting their behavior, like, and just kind of like assuming like, well, like because a cat has an expression that looks like a human expression, that's what the meaning of that expression is. But a lot of times when cats kind of look grumpy, it's actually they're just chilling out, you know?
right. And sometimes they look like they want to murder you, and they're just like, that's a sign of affection. They're just kind of
Exactly.
squinting their eyes and blinking at you, and you're like, "Oh, what's your problem?" But that's just them being like, "I love that guy. That guy's great."
He- yeah, exactly. And like cats opening or closing your eyes, that's a sign of, I think for a cat, that's a sign of security because it's like they don't have to look.
Right,
Yeah.
Um, or like, a cat like where they lay down, like, you know, will
pointing their
have to
butt
do
at
with
you. Yeah,
yeah, pointing their butt at you. Or like, if they're gonna if if they spend all of their time away from you, hidden, like it's
Right.
usually a sign,
Right.
cats will position themselves higher up too, like in order to be safe, because
Yeah.
they have the higher ground.
Mm.
But I mean, they do that when they're playing too. Um,
Yeah. Cats are complicated.
they're complicated, but there's a lot there.
Right.
And I think you're right. Another thing that made me think of too is this theory of cognitive trade-off, uh,
Hmm.
which is basically researchers in Japan were working with, I think it was chimpanzees or bonobos, and it was one of those two. It was, anyway. Um, and basically, I think it was bonobos, but that's not that important. The important thing is that basically what they were doing was testing their ability to like um, memorize a sequence of objects in sequence very, very rapidly.
Hmm.
And like they're able to do this like way better than a human can possibly do that,
Yeah.
like so basically while a bonobo might be very good at doing things that like their brain is going to be very developed for this very specific lifestyle that they live, in this kind of like arboreal forest lifestyle, living in communities or whatever. And because of that, they don't necessarily have the same neurological skill set that humans have, for doing whatever BS we're what are we even doing anyway?
Right. Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
there's a cognitive trade-off. Chimpanzees and bonobos, they have very powerful brains that are really, really good at doing things that humans are not capable of doing.
Right.
And but it
Well, and
because of that,
recently,
like they can't do the things that humans do, basically.
right,
Like they can't talk or like, invent a bicycle or something.
right, or write the best novel ever written. Uh, is the best of
So
times. It was the blurst of times. Sorry, I had to do that. What were you saying, Steph?
this is the thing, because I think Rachel brings up a really, really good point about like cats and dogs being most mammals being very immersed in scent and what can tell you. It can tell you, health, where you are in the whole reproductive cycle, older or young, how long ago that animal has been there, how many, just like a huge amount of information that they're constantly taking in and bathing in, but we're very, just very mildly aware of. Now, as it comes to communication, and the cats being kind of hard to understand and everything, it's funny, because I was when I was at a vet's office, this was years and years ago, and I don't think I'd had a cat then, or I'd maybe lived with one cat. So I'm going in the office, and then they put me in this room, and my dog or whoever wasn't there at the time, and so I'm in this vet office room, and they have kind of a Dutch doors, so like a half door. Suddenly, this cat, and I guess it was like the vet office cat, comes hopping in. And then, oh, he's so cute. He's so friendly. And then pretty soon I noticed that I'm like running the tap water in the sink for this cat, which I didn't even know at that time was the thing that cats liked.
Yeah.
And the cat's like laughing at it and playing at it. And then suddenly I kind of like come to myself. I'm like, how did this cat get me to do this? Right?
They
But
just psychically connected to the cat.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it had over time it's developed as ways of giving cues to us stupid humans so that we
Right.
know what it wants. But it was a funny thing where I thought, this whole, really pretty precise communication could be happening when you're not even really aware of it, and you're
Hmm.
just being like led around by the nose by a cat.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the important thing is especially with animals is that observation and being like awareness, just being aware of each other, and then I think you can just kind of fall into uh, a sympathetic kind of understanding, right? And
Yeah.
that's where I think like the other character in Nope was the I can't remember the character's name, the guy that was like the horse trainer.
Oh,
Um,
like the main character.
right.
Yeah, I don't remember the characters' names either.
I don't remember
So,
the actor's name either. I feel bad because I only watched that once when it first came out, and then
oh yeah,
I
what
should
was?
revisit it because I liked it a lot.
Mhm.
Um, but he had this understanding where like animals, how they work, right? And
Mhm.
he barely talks. Like he has a lot of very silent parts in it because he understands that with animals, a lot of it is just posture and awareness and looks back and forth and or not looking away, right? Like that's how he survives, is by not looking at Jean Jacket, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, so it's pretty cool. I mean, I think a lot of people, I mean, that's why that's always been a part of magical systems and occult work is communication with animals, right? Like that's always been worked in there. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, I really love that character and that aspect of the movie too. I wasn't thinking about that when I was writing that. Like, but yeah, he very explicitly like comes up with a strategy for defeating Jean Jacket based on the fact that Jean Jacket is an animal, basically, and that's where the name comes from. Jean Jacket is like the name of a horse that he broke or something like that.
right, right.
Which is, yeah, it's really cool.
Well, I think it
But yeah.
was, yeah. I mean, I think it was at first it's a self-preservation thing because I mean, I
Mhm.
guess part well, if you were breaking a horse, like a horse could break you pretty easy.
Yeah.
I've been nearly thrown off a horse before. It's no joke, you know. So,
We our one of our oldest family friends came by this morning. She hadn't been by for 3 months. Usually she's comes by about once a month. Um, but it was the first time that I ever heard from her. And I've known her, what, probably like over 55 years now. It's the first time I ever heard from her that when she was in her early 20s, she got thrown from a horse down a cliff.
Oh,
oh
wow.
Yeah,
yeah,
in Marin, her she had a friend whose boyfriend had some horses, so he took her out riding as a birthday present. And the horse, they went to a kind of a cliff on top of this mountain where there was a nice view, and the horse was not a fan of hers, so just kind of put his head down as she fell. Luckily, she didn't break anything or
oh.
whatever. But yeah, it's kind of interesting when you talk about horses showing because I hadn't heard that one before.
Well, that
Um,
happened to Aleister Crowley too in China. Although I think it
yeah,
was a donkey. I think the donkey and him went over a cliffside.
my dad's mom, her older brother ended up getting thrown by a horse. He had gone to a dance and he never came home. And then the next morning, the horse came home and it was dragging his body. So
Hmm.
not to cheer everyone up, but yeah, it can be really intense. And my her husband, my dad's dad, he had well, all of us in our family have like big feet with like these kind of outsized big toes. But and we're from Fresno, so everyone's running around barefoot all the time because it's a million degrees. But he had one, his second toe on one of his feet was kind of crooked because he'd had a horse had stepped on it and just like wouldn't move
Mhm.
for almost the better part of 5 minutes. And he said, so I'm standing there and I'm kind of like moving the reins this way
Yeah,
and moving the reins that way and just kind of like trying not to scream. But yeah,
yeah,
horses can be very, they'll let you know, I guess, if they're not into what you're doing at that moment.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's fair.
Well, it's interesting this topic came up too because there was that BBC show recently that covered the Sam the Sandown Clown story,
Oh yeah.
and they
Uh-huh.
claimed to have tracked down the original Fae, which was somebody other than Paul A.T. Wilson, who was on my show, Talk to You, apparently. And
Huh.
But the
Yeah.
story was, according to the BBC, that she had been thrown from a horse as a teenager and got amnesia and didn't remember anything prior to that.
What?
So, yeah,
That's weird.
that's weird. Yeah, it's a weird connection to just thought of because we got on this topic of horses throwing people. I'll have to send you
Do you
the
think?
link, Rachel, so that you can watch it. It's on YouTube, I believe.
All right, I'll have to check it out because that would be really interesting if there really were two different phase.
Well, I mean, Paul said as much on the show, but I mean, I think he's backed away from the whole thing now. I don't know. It's a whole affair that I got sick of pretty quickly because I got a lot of emails from people that were like, "This guy's full of it. That didn't happen." But whatever the case, I really liked the additional Sam stories. I'm glad they exist. Um,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be, but it's interesting that there's this other wrinkle with another Fae that was thrown from a horse and
Yeah,
like doesn't remember it, which is also interesting considering the name Fae because of the relationship between Fae and horses, like Fae folk and horses, and like breeding the manes and everything.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and the memory loss, like the
It's like we're talking to
aspect.
this person about what they remember about this incident that they got amnesia from and don't remember. It's like I don't understand. Did she
Well, I
like
didn't.
recruit
Yeah,
memories
I
or
didn't. I didn't. Well, she only vaguely remembers it, and apparently, according to the show, it caused a rift between her and her father because her father was trying to get the Sam story out there, and she didn't remember it anymore.
oh
So,
boy, that sounds awful.
well, there's a whole lot of it I frankly don't buy. Like, I don't buy the BBC account of it because I'm like, this all sounds too convenient. They just needed something to wrap it up. But uh, who am I? Who am I to besmirch the name of the BBC?
well, yeah, no, the way I want it to turn out is that there's actually two different phase, like somehow like we've converged into two different realities where
Yeah,
this same experience happened, but it happened to two different, groups of witnesses,
right.
and then
Well,
and then they
Sam split
somehow
the timeline. Yeah.
reconverged. Like the timeline has, yeah, it is now like just gone back into one timeline.
Well, it's like a Twin Peaks sort of thing. Instead of two
Yeah.
Coopers, it's two Fays. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
Anger reflex.
one of them is the Black Lodge Fay, probably.
Yeah. That's the BBC one. We all
Right.
know. Just kidding.
Well, it would be like Dougie Jones from Twin Peaks season three. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um, um, but that was a digression. But
Well,
this is something I definitely wanted to bring up because it's fascinating. And talking about Coco earlier made me think of it because I don't know what to make of this, but it's absolutely amazing to watch. Uh, my wife Pam has been following along on TikTok with this account. I guess the creator's name is Mina Alali or Alali. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but she has the oddest menagerie of pets, and one of them is a pig named Merlin. So she has this big old pig named Merlin that lives in her living room, and she has it supplied with a whole bunch of buzzers, like those like the desk buzzer that you could press and it that they were selling for a while, like 20 years ago, and you hit it and it go no, something like that. She has those, but they all have different things they say, and the pig will go over and press his snoot on the button to get what he wants.
Mhm.
Um, and one of them says no Maverick because there's a dog named Maverick. So if the dog enters the room, the pig will run over and press the button that says no Maverick, and or it'll be like food, and the woman will be like, no, Marilyn, it's not time to eat right now, and you'll just hear food, food, and she's like, it's not dinner yet, and then you'll just hear sad, and it's a button that says sad, and I'm like, wow, this pig is like actually. It almost seems like this pig is really communicating. It's really strange, and pigs are very intelligent. So I'm not really sure what to make of this. You'd have to watch the videos to really get the full effect. But
Yeah. Well,
the one that kills me is there's a button where he says Al Capone. He presses that and it says Al Capone, which is the name of the parrot. So they let him hang out with Al Capone. They bring the parrot out, put it on the pig's back, and he's like super happy. He's visibly happy, just hanging out with his parrot friend. So,
Well, I mean, animals can like learn, you know, specific words, right?
yeah,
And my main point was just that Coco doesn't have syntax.
right.
Coco probably understands all of the signs,
Yeah.
just not how to make sentences with them.
Yeah.
So, like,
Well, right. So if she had vocal cords, she wouldn't be able to, you know, um,
yeah,
to
like she
actually
wouldn't be
speak
able.
like a person, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, so, like, it makes sense that Merlin would be able to, and I mean, pigs are not the same as gorillas, obviously, too, is another thing, but like, it would make sense that Merlin would be using those buttons in that way because, like, basically that's how they're designed. It's like you basically are training your animal to be like, if you press this button, then you'll get this,
Hmm.
basically. You know what I mean? And so, and I know like dogs can learn like hundreds of commands and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it
It's
seems,
just
yeah.
it's learning the words, but it's almost like spooky and hilarious.
Yeah.
It's hilarious and cute, and also just makes you go like, "Wow, that pig is damn smart." It's like practically has this whole range of emotion. It's kind of funny that it has a button that says sad, and it's just like,
I
as in
think
like I'm sad now, you know?
that's it. It's interesting too,
Yeah.
but it's funny. Isn't Merlin the name of the pig from the the head pig from Animal Farm or something like that?
Oh, maybe I didn't even think of that, but yeah, probably.
Oh
Um,
my God.
Well, anyway.
all, they have a bunch of animals that all their names begin with M, except the bird, because I think they adopted the bird with the name already or something like that. So yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's funny.
And the dog's favorite thing is ripping apart suitcases. So they have to constantly supply it with new suitcases, and he'll just jump up and down and like rip them apart. It, it's it's wild. It's a wild form of content creation they have going on over there.
Like have expensive taste. We have a dog, Molly, who's a black lab. She's so sweet. She's about a year and a half, 2 years old now, and it's like our kind of backdoor neighbor. So we share kind of a back area, and she's really cute. She very very rarely barks, but sometimes she'll bark or bay when like one of our cars is pulling up. She
Mhm.
knows we're there. And my mom always goes out and is like, how many cookies would you like to? I don't know. My mom has this thing where she's always like, oh, I'm teaching Oliver how to count. See, he used to get 3 cookies every time, and now he's getting 4 cookies. So now he knows four. Is like, mom,
Yeah,
like up to seven or something. But Molly, I guess that there was some kind of wooden areas around the house, the outside of the house, and when she was teething, this is like her preferred thing. Is like, oh, you have these wooden stairs. Let me just do my teething. So I was thinking suitcases is pretty bad, but I was thinking, well, actually, your house, just having your
yeah.
dog just wanting to eat your house is pretty even more expensive than suitcases.
I had a dog once that ate my recliner. Um,
Oh,
I came back and it was literally just the metal frame. I'm like, where did it go?
Oh my God.
All the upholstery was ripped off, all the cushioning, the little wooden handle that you used. He was a
yeah,
Great Dane Irish Wolfhound mix named Loki, so that it only took him one day to do that, though. It was crazy.
yeah. It's, oh, well, I guess it was. That's crazy. Just.
But
Um,
on the topic of pigs, though, I did want to get to this because well, this was something I was going to write about, but I probably still will. I can do both, whatever. Um,
yeah,
uh, I've been thinking about this because there's a lot of talk about how like AI is going to help us communicate with the non-human intelligences, whether or not they're extraterrestrial, which I'm dubious about because I think pretty it's pretty well known that I'm an opponent of what's referred to as AI out there because um, I was thinking about this recently in terms of since I was talking about Merlin the pig, like there's a well documented history of of a conjuring trick that used to happen back in the 1700s and 1800s, where people would travel with a pig that was trained, and they were called learned pigs. There was a famous one named Toby the Learned Pig, or like the Professor Pig, and you'd ask it a question, and they'd have like little typewriters, or like sometimes it was just numbers. They would have numbers in a sequence, and somebody from the audience would ask it a math problem, and the pig would put the right number out. But there were subtle cues that the trainer had to point the pig to the right answer, right? So the audience is all looking at the pig is looking at the trainer, and the trainer is making innocuous gestures that mean nothing to anybody except the pig. And then that means that the pig will select the right block. And then everybody thinks the pig is a genius.
Mhm.
And the pig just knows it's going to get a treat if it gets it right. So, but it is kind of a genius because it's able to follow very subtle cues.
That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
And it's an
Fascinating.
ingenious thing in general because this is a meeting of the minds between the person and the pig. But what's
Mhm.
not happening is computation in the pig's mind. And I think
Yeah.
AI is the same exact thing. I think that there's a sleight of hand going on where we people think of it as intelligence, and it's like, no, it's an algorithmic computational thing that has layers to it. It's fascinating the way that they're able to compute language, but it's essentially you pointing it towards a thing and it making a facsimile of the thing that it think that well, see, there you go. You can't say it without saying it thinks you want this. It doesn't think at all. There's no thinking. Like these complex lines of code generate something spontaneously based on your subtle cues, and it may or may not be right. Right. So I think you're better off with a learned pig than you are with AI. But in some ways, I think they're very similar.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And the idea of a learned pig is just hilarious to me.
Well, this has a corollary in the 20th century, though, because of
Yeah,
I'm sure you're both familiar with Lady Wonder, the psychic horse.
yeah.
Um, and this is what people think was going on with that is that
Mhm.
the Lady Wonder was picking up subtle cues from her trainer, and it had a horse typewriter and could type out answers to questions. Um, Now, the only thing with that is if Lady Wonder was making predictions and the predictions came true, that that must mean that the trainer was psychic to train to give the cues to the horse to get the right answer, right? But
Mhm.
a lot of people would say that that was just basically the same thing as the learned pig trick. Is that was what Lady Wonder was? But Lady
Mhm.
Wonder was looked at by JB and Louisa Rhine and taken seriously in psi research for a little while at least. So,
Mhm.
and this was the 1920s, I think.
Mhm.
So, oh, and just because we're all friends with Jeff Knox, I should mention that geese were also used for this same kind of thing back in the 18th and 19th century.
Well, I mean, I know that Merge is psychic. Because well, we've had psychic conversations with each other, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, I mean, how can you doubt it at that point
Right.
when you've had a psychic conversation with a goose?
With a learned,
A
With a
learned
learned
goose.
goose. We're just a very learned goose.
Is Merge talking to you right now, Rachel?
Yeah, he's saying, I want bread.
there you go.
And why
For
isn't my
listeners,
pool clean?
yeah, for listeners that might not know, our friend of the show, Jeff Knox, has a pet goose named Merge. So if people aren't following along,
Excuse me.
follow
Um,
Jeff. Follow Jeff and see videos of Merge. He posts them all the time.
Yeah.
yeah, he does. Merge is very adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of things this made me think of. One was the idea of the China brain, which is an idea from, math, from like computation science, which is basically like this thought experiment where you have like um I can't remember exactly how it works, but basically to give you a general sense of it is like imagine that everyone in China was, passing notes to each other, basically. But all the note was it was, like following it would be like a response to like, like they would be, following instructions or something to write a little thing, and then they could like everyone in China could be doing these computations without even realizing that that's what they were doing at all.
Hmm.
And so you could have this like brain, like a functioning brain made out of all of the people in a network. None of them would be aware that the brain existed, um, but it would be like conscious and aware kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
In guerrilla warfare, right? Or resistance warfare, you have a cell network.
Yeah, exactly. That's the same.
That's what they want to know. Even if you get tortured, you don't know anything, so you only know your contact, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
But like France, Vietnam, we see that you're able to these resistance networks can be highly effective, even
Mhm.
if only one, every individual only has like a small part of the overall puzzle. So,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah, it's the same kind of mechanism, and it shows up, I think, a lot in UFO stuff because you have, like people working in counterintelligence and stuff like that too.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's another. But another thing that it made me think of too is the Johari window, which is this concept in psychology of like basically. I can draw it, but the idea is that you have it's almost like a Venn diagram and but it's a square and then the square is divided into fours, hence the window. And like in one quadrant you have um the things that you know about yourself and that everybody knows about yourself, right? And
Mhm.
then in another quadrant you have the things that only you know about yourself. And then the next quadrant you have the things that only other people know about you that you don't know about you. And then
it's
in
the
the
Roosevelt thing,
thank you. And yeah,
including the unknown unknowns.
yeah, and then the
Right.
fourth one is the unknown unknowns, which is the things that nobody knows about you, including yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like interesting to think about the learned pig scenario from like analyzing from the Johari window, like so from like Merlin or now I'm calling the learned pig Merlin,
Well,
which
it's
makes sense.
Toby, but yeah, there were a bunch
Toby.
of them, but Toby was a famous one. Yeah.
Oh,
But
Toby. Oh, that's the famous one. Okay.
yeah.
So Toby would know the signals and wouldn't probably care about the audience, like wouldn't have any idea of what was going on around him at all,
Right.
except for that, like he's getting like a treat or something if he follows these commands. Um, yeah. Well, anyway, you get the idea, I
Well,
think.
right. But you have to wonder though, maybe the pig enjoyed the applause too. Like who knows? Like it's
Maybe that's true. Pigs
you
are a
never
lot like humans,
right.
for my, yeah.
Because when you go talk about Marilyn, I mean the woman, I believe the woman that makes these videos is a veterinarian too. That's how she has all the animals. But
Mhm.
she talks to it the whole time, and it like you can kind of see the Merlin the pig really enjoys like praise or talking to her, like it seems to
Mhm.
well, I mean, like any animal. I mean, it was like
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I think, yeah, because it's like, yeah, they would enjoy, people's attention. Like,
mhm.
dogs love people's attention.
Yeah, yeah, they can't get
Yeah.
enough of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most dogs,
Yeah.
yeah, not traumatized dogs. Uh,
Yeah.
which,
Mm,
which I mean, that's another thing is animals remember stuff really well, you know, and yeah. Well, we've been talking about animals this whole time, but what about plants? We didn't talk about plantoids. We could talk about
oh,
that.
man. Well,
I don't know
okay.
what you
Well,
had for notes. I'm sorry, Rachel, if I'm like
uh,
blowing up your whole prep.
well, I'm just gonna pull from my notes, if I think it's relevant. And what I was gonna talk about was balloons, at
Oh
some
yeah,
point,
yeah.
because well, but there's I've been for a long time trying to find a sort of jean jacket, a living balloon in real life, right?
Mm.
And we don't have those. We don't have like living airships and balloons on land and in the sky, but we have lots of them in the water,
That's true.
all sorts of them, and especially like fish. I think you could think of a fish as being like an airship, but underwater. So
Well,
a
especially a
water.
pufferfish.
Exactly, yeah, because those puff out and they really look like a balloon.
Yeah, the little tiny.
Yeah. Yeah. But also a lot of plants too have balloons built into them, like seaweed and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like kelp will have
Yeah,
these little organs that come off and they're like bulb shaped, and those literally just contain gas and keep the seaweed upright in the water, calm,
Well,
basically. And then,
well, I
but
think there's a lot of balloon-like things in plant life, like pollen in the air, um, settling places and seedlings, like those maple keys, the little whirligigs
yeah,
that come
just
off the
like
maple
everybody.
trees.
Yeah, dandelion puffs.
Yeah,
Yeah, but you know what
exactly.
I'm saying though. Th Those aren't balloons. Like
Yeah, they're not.
they're not an envelope full of pressurized gas. That's really what I was looking
Right.
for.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I think the only real like true like example I think is the Portuguese man of war and maybe
Mhm.
a few of its relatives, because that's literally just like a bladder full of gas, like when
Yeah.
floats up to the top. I mean, that's not all it is, obviously, but that's like its
They should.
most prominent feature.
Don't the the chordate fishes have a bladder that they use to help regulate their buoyancy in water. I
Hmm.
forget what it's called, but is that like a balloon?
Yeah, I think it's called a swim bladder, but yeah, that's what I was saying, that
Yeah,
fish are basically like airships pretty
yeah.
much,
Yeah.
because I mean, in the water though.
Right.
But yeah. So
Well, and
like
whales to some extent too, I guess, right?
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think they have a swim bladder. I'm not sure how whales do
Do their
that
Mhm.
thing.
exactly, but I'm sure it's like the same principle, right? Like
Yeah.
just controlling the pressure of air inside of their body.
Hmm.
Turns out that fat is magic, and so because well, you think of all these animals that end up like all the whales, all the sea mammals, sea lions. We have elephant seals in California, which are like literally like a ton or more.
Mhm.
Um, but they're all like incredibly fat, which I
Hmm.
think provides insulation from the temperatures. But I wonder how that plays into them being able to, because some of these animals will be going down at thousands of feet depth in the sea. I guess they're looking for food. I don't know. And then they can hold their breath for several minutes, super cold, then they're coming up like no problem.
Hmm.
What is up with that? I don't have any idea.
Well,
Humans
you
do that
also have the
too.
really mischievous sea otters out near you, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have the sea otters, and actually they are very reliant on kelp and these kelp forests because these kelp are growing like out of the ground, but they grow all the way up to the top of the sea, and so otters will wrap kelp around themselves so that they don't drift away from the rafts of the other otters. Sometimes you see, just like 100 or more otters all together, and they kind of whistle at each other. It's super cute.
Otters
Um,
are so cool. I love that.
yeah, but then they also regulate with their air. They spend a lot of time fluffing up their coats. They have incredibly dense fur, and so they spend a lot of time grooming and fluffing up their coats because they trap a lot of air in there as insulation, and I think also to help control their buoyancy
Hmm.
when driving down. They actually eat a lot of animals that grow and live around kelp as well. Sea urchins and abalone and other sea creatures.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, they're a keystone species basically. So without the otters, the urchins eat all the kelp, and then the kelp forest dies. So sea otters basically help maintain the kelp forests. And
yeah,
there's actually like I think in Alaska or somewhere there was a program to like use otters basically for that specific purpose.
yeah,
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 well, I mean,
yeah.
sorry, Steph, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with Rachel. She did a good job
Yeah,
explaining.
Mm.
absolutely. And this kind of gets to what I was trying to say earlier, that maybe not so gracefully, was we ascribe like motivations that humans might have to this sort of stuff. So, or we don't necessarily, but I think people broadly do. So, if you're watching a nature documentary, they might say, well, the sea otters are the stewards of the kelp forest, and they're doing this specifically to this. But they're doing it because it's beneficial to them, and it's
Mhm.
part of a system that works. And as long as you don't, if you don't fuck with nature, usually it figures itself out, right? We always think that we have solutions, and then we ascribe human motivations to the animals and the plants. And I've heard this about plants, like the plant takes advantage of the animal life in the area by doing this, or
Mhm.
like X happens because this plant or this animal wants this thing, so they do this thing to. But really what it is a process of adaptation where these
Mhm.
things have developed that way in co-emergence or sympathy with each other or well, um, what's the word I'm looking for, symbiosis.
Mhm.
um, but I like to think of it as sympathy, like there's a sympathetic kind of give and take between various life forms, and that constitutes a control system, you know. Um, and I think people misinterpret this, where Jacques Vallée has talked about control systems before. People kind of take it more literally and think that that means there's a controller somewhere controlling a system. It's like, no, the
Yeah.
control system is the fact that all these various parts work together and complement each other. And there's a give and take back and forth and like a fluid dynamic to it that promotes life in general, right? Like the
And there's
totality of life.
Yeah, there's specific, like it goes to systems theory, which came out of the study of ecology. And
Right.
like Rachel was talking about with keystone systems, there's like positive feedback systems and negative feedback systems. So like a negative feedback system is going to kind of uh, uh, keep things to be more stable as they are. A positive feedback system is going to be when you make a change, it causes knock-on changes, and then those changes feed back into the system and cause more changes, like kind of like how we're seeing with like climate change now.
Right.
Right, start
Mhm.
changing things and it gets this galloping thing instead of let's say if we had developed a lot more carbon sinks where you could take that energy and change and absorb it back into something that's more stable. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and AP, like you're saying, it's not like, of course, conscious intervention can happen in these type of systems. When people decide that they're going to reintroduce beavers into a watershed, right? That's going to change things. And if people do that consciously, right, that's conscious intervention, but it's based on observation of these natural systems that didn't really have to come from, um, the all-seeing eyeball deciding,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
what
and
we're
it's
going
not
to.
like the animals and the plants and the funguses all had a meeting, or like there's committees that decided these things needed to happen. It's
Although that would be super adorable though. Yeah, yeah, like well the thing too is that like it's not like it's these feedback loops, they're just going to kind of happen. They just emerge on their own, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be good. Like, like I think of like right the great oxygenation event, for example, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's where, these oxygen producing organisms started running rampant, and that created the kind of ecology that we have today that allowed for things like, complex cellular multicellular life and stuff like that. But in order for that to happen, though, that all of these other organisms had to die out really fast. And there have been a few like major extinctions that have been caused by things like that, not by a meteor or something, but just by something happening in the ecology itself that just completely changes the whole ecosystem and wipes it out.
Hmm.
Like one particular type of organism getting a little bit overexcited and decided to do everything its way on the earth, huh?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we breathe oxygen. So-
Yeah.
Well, that's why I've always thought that, or I've suggested before, and it's really pissed off some people that are more materialistic and science minded, but that UFOs may represent the psychic projections of all plant life on Earth. Uh, because I mean, we talk about, in the contactee days, it was always about saving the Earth. That was
Mhm.
always the message: is you only get this one planet. I mean, you're messing it up, and
Yeah.
knock it off with the nukes and stuff. And I'm like, why would somebody from Venus have a vested interest in preserving plant and animal life on this planet? Like, what
Oh,
actually has more of an interest? The Amazon rainforest, probably. Like the massive tree systems in North America that are all just one big organism, right?
Or like
Um,
bugs. I mean, look at the extinction through the 20th century. We've had bug extinctions, a lot fewer mass reduction in bug population. And what so many people say that when they encounter beings associated with flying saucers, right, they will say well, they flat out look like mantids, right, which is a type of
right.
bug, or they seem to kind of have a hive mind. They remind them of insects with like the exoskeleton and the big eyes. There's kind of all these overlapping of insectoid imagery. Um,
Hmm.
which makes me think because that's another thing I'm thinking, a lot of bugs, they'd be motivated to give people the pro environmental message and
Yeah.
a lot
increasing
of,
diversity. So
yeah,
you know,
it's true. A lot of birds too. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, Betty Andreessen with the phoenix representing.
oh, yeah.
But when you talk about the mantoids, I always
That's,
feel like they're just a little bit creepy, kind of creepers. The mantids.
they are creepy. Aren't they like the good ones though, or something? I don't know.
Well, I always think of like the David Huggins painting where he's like
Yeah.
having sexy time with an alien, and the mantids just kind of sitting in the
That's-
corner watching.
And another time there's like a small kind of like a micro yeti. Like
Right,
like a small hairy, like instead of a big hairy monster, a small hairy monster.
right.
It's
Oh
kind of
yeah,
like an Ewok, I guess. Over
like
in the
Orang Pendek or something.
Yeah, kind of like that type of an idea.
Or like the
Watching.
hairy dwarves that were
Yeah.
reported, and yeah, yeah,
Mhm. It's a good
Mhm.
yeah.
option. I don't know. It sounds.
Um, what's that?
I just said it just all sounds alarming. You're just getting like kidnapped by aliens and some like weirdo freak over in the corner
Right.
judging.
That's
You
what I'm
didn't even like
saying. Yeah,
her.
they're like weirdly voyeuristic. But
Well, this idea of like the kind of the plants like psychically projecting, UFOs, I really like it. I think it's very cool. But it made me think of a few different things. One was this show called The Kettering Incident, which um is not like super well known apparently, but it's pretty cool because it's like a kind of a UFO show, but not
Hmm.
really. And I don't want to spoil it really, but it has kind of it goes in that sort of direction of of the UFOs being kind of like a manifestation of the land itself, and the
Right.
people that live there. Um, and um, Yeah, I didn't want to knock on your idea of plants producing balloons either, because I mean, you're right that plants do produce a lot of matter that just ends up in the atmosphere drifting around like
Right.
pollen and seeds and fluff and potentially other stuff. And there really is like an ecosystem in the atmosphere that's very complex, involving microbes and pollens and insects and birds.
Yep.
And it's very mysterious. And and there could absolutely be like plant balloons, or maybe there were in the past or something,
Yeah.
who knows?
Well, it
And
makes me
maybe,
think of I wish I still had it, but I feel like when I was a kid I had a book that talked to, I don't think it was strictly a UFO book. I think it was more of like a science book for kids about other planets that was talking
Mhm.
about how years ago people thought there might have been life on Mars or Venus, but now we know that there couldn't possibly be because no life we know of could survive in those environments. But then it had like this picture that was like, but what if there's life that we
Mhm.
don't know about that and there was like an artistic depiction of a balloon-like animal living on Venus that would just
Mhm.
kind of float in like the acidic rain and kind of float right above that and use gas as like a ballast and just survive in the atmosphere um, with some other kind of not being a carbon-based life form. It was based on something else and like
I love it.
I wish I
Yeah.
still had it. I remember seeing it as a kid in one of my books, and I was like, "That is the coolest thing." It was just like this weird balloon animal with like kind of a longish neck and like some glider wings, but it would mostly just inflate and deflate a little and live in
That's
the
so
atmosphere
cool.
of Venus. Yeah,
Well, I mean, Venus is one of the prime candidates for life right now, because they found phosphines there a few years ago, and
right.
like it might not mean anything, but it's a possibility that there could be life in the atmosphere of Venus.
Right. And but that's what gets me is people are like, well, life as we know it couldn't survive on Mars or Jupiter's moons or something. And it's like, yeah, as we know it.
As we know it. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
because that's the kind of the whole thing that we're getting around here is that we talk about all these animals, plants, and everything that we consider to be life working together. And like you said
Mhm.
with the China brain thing, they might all be part of one big brain, right? And one
There
big
might be
organism.
there could be like several different brains, like that they
Right.
didn't even know each other existed, like
Yeah.
just like
They
on
all
top of each other. Like
they all exist in one square, the unknown unknowns.
Yeah.
yeah, they're like, I am the ultimate God, and then the other one's like, I am the ultimate God, but they don't like actually know that the other one exists.
Right.
Yeah, another thing I thought about too was just balloons in general, because, going off of this idea of like nature like responding to humans, uh there's this idea in like Japanese sort of yokai popular culture and lore of this thing called I think they're called Wasure Mono, which is just means like, forgotten thing, right?
Mhm.
And this is a type of yokai that's basically it's an abandoned object, or an object that hasn't been cared for, and then it kind of comes to life, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and what it always makes me think of is in the Popol Vuh, there's like this passage, like there's like different creations where like the gods try to create these like people to like live in in the land and worship them and stuff, but they like keep getting it wrong each time. And then like one of them, like the they're just like not taking care of their stuff, and so like all of their stuff starts like rebelling against them. Like their
Hmm.
tortilla griddles start like attacking them or something. I don't remember exactly, but
Wow.
um and and I feel like balloons are kind of like that. Balloons are something that we made, and then they just come back and like to like bring back their like monstrous ballooniness like upon us,
Hmm.
like, because because they act like organisms, like they
Right.
act like they're almost anthropomorphic or something, but
Or
they don't,
intelligently controlled, at least,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. They like drift around and they can move around based on all of these minor uh, things like air pressure and temperature and air gusts and air currents, and all of these different things can work together to cause a balloon to act as though it was alive, which I think is fascinating. But
Yeah.
but also like this, like a balloon coming to you to attack you, or to haunt you, or like the I think there's something really crazy about balloons being attracted to electrical equipment because they are, especially mylar balloons. So they'll just go out of their way to like mess things up.
Yeah.
So I don't, yeah, I feel like um,
They're a
while
menace.
it's not like plants, and it's not like the plants of Earth creating something to like as like a harbinger or whatever, or like as a projection of their feelings, but it's actually us ourselves creating something from the Earth and then that thing rebelling against us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, balloons are rubber too, so they are kind of like made from,
They're in the plant
Yeah,
family that came from a tree. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's weird because especially like, well, like hot air balloons, as you know, I've been pestered by. And it's funny because you were talking about balloons and this kind of menacing feeling to them because one of the best depictions of that is of course in the series The Prisoner. The
Mm,
balloons will come and consume people. And actually up the street from us is a winery. It's called the Prisoner Winery. And it's
Huh.
named after the show. I don't know why. It looks terrible. I don't know if their wine's any good, but and it doesn't look like their tasting rooms or grounds are really on the theme of the prisoner either. But it's named after it. I don't know why. But
weird.
Huh.
there's menacing balloons, but like hot air balloons, it's like there's a certain amount, like you're saying, where they can be controlled, but only so much. I guess last week there was actually a hot air balloon crash in Pahrump, Nevada. Several people went to the hospital. No one was killed or injured severely, I don't think. But
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Well, that's
crazy.
good.
and then when
But
you
I
talk,
mean,
sorry,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say when you talk about like kind of the electrical charge of these like mylar balloons and how it creates a situation where they're going to have like this behavior seeking like the worst possible outcome. It's like go there
Yeah.
and rip things out,
Hmm.
the power situation.
It's
Well, I feel like
basically
it must be similar to like when you rub a balloon against the sweater or something and then stick it to the wall. It
And then
must
stick
be
it to the cat, and
right.
then the cat. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I think it's the same principle. Mylar is just really bad, I think, because it's a metallized, so it has an even stronger charge.
Yeah. It
Um,
causes it all to short out and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And dang it, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, with all of this stuff, though, because we talk about all these different forms of life, and ultimately, is consciousness dependent on that, or intrinsic in that, or part of that, or does consciousness exist outside of that? Like, whence comes consciousness, or which came first, right? Like, that's kind of, when we talk about non-human intelligence and we talk about different forms of intelligence, it's like we can't even really define what intelligence or sentience or consciousness is. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like this really nebulous, ill-defined category that people flippantly throw out there, and they just want to use it to mean aliens or like ultra-terrestrials or other dimensional entities, right? So
I
yeah.
mean, I tend to feel like, that consciousness might just be an illusion. Like I don't, I kind of waffle though because I'm really into the, into non-duality. I'm really into Nagarjuna,
Yeah.
because and he was this Buddhist philosopher who, was one of his major things was basically like taking like a claim and then like stating the negation of that claim and then stating like neither like say for example like there's a soul or something, then he would say there is no soul, and then like there's both a soul and no soul,
Hmm.
or and then there's neither a soul nor not a soul, and then like a further step beyond that, basically like he was going for this just really really extreme epistemic skepticism to counter kind of like the dogmatism that was going on in Buddhism, and like Vedanta and stuff like that.
That
And
sounds like my kind of guy. Yeah.
yeah, he's pretty cool. And so like where was I? Why did I even bring that up? Like I don't remember what were we talking about just a
Because we
second
were talking
ago.
about what consciousness even is.
Oh yeah, exactly. And so like yeah, like from that kind of like Mahayana perspective, it's like, like maybe consciousness is emptiness and also love, but like on like sort of just like ontologically on the opposite sides of itself or something like that, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
consciousness isn't really real, but
Yeah,
that's
it's everything
besides
and
the
it's nothing.
point,
Yeah.
like suffering still happens, so we still have to deal with it.
Yeah. Bring us back to the suffering alien at the top of the show. Yeah.
The thing with Buddhism that is interesting to me about it, that I think a lot of people in kind of like general Western society these days don't want to contend with, which is Buddhism is a set of practices.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's not a deist religion, right? You don't need to believe in anything. It's a set of practices where you can achieve the types of states of consciousness where you can understand these insights.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to talk anyone into that. You have to do these practices and or be around someone else who's done a lot of these practices so you can get into these type of states of consciousness where you can grasp these ideas that are trying to be expressed in things like, for example, the Heart Sutra, which is talking about non-duality.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But
But
so I think that a lot of what we get when we get people trying to talk about non-human intelligences and UFOs and stuff is you get a lot of people trying to logic things. Well, what's really going on here?
Hmm.
mhm.
How could we prove, X, Y, Z? And I don't know that that is the best. Well, I think we need other approaches for talking about that stuff because you get them talking past people who've had these experiences where they've had these altered states of consciousness where they've been able to glimpse these type of insights into different ways of perceiving reality and what the nature of consciousness or compassion may be. And so they're talking about that and trying to apply that insight to whatever's going on in their life. And it could be very disruptive. But then you have people who say, well, but I want to think if it's interdimensional whatever, or if it's a particular ray of some star, they're trying to materialize it. And I think there's
Yeah.
a lot of past
Mhm.
um, each other in that type of thing, which is where you would hope that people who have more experience with like sociology, there's a type of psychology that has to do with mystical experiences, and psychology there, spiritual emergencies, anthropology, philosophy, that this, and you would hope that study religion would be helpful for people who are going through these challenging experiences. And then also people who are just reading about all these like strange events in popular culture, because these narratives become very compelling. And like we've seen with the whole disclosure, the only reason people care about disclosure is because of all these narratives about, what would it be like if we knew that we weren't alone in the universe, or people who said, I had this strange experience, this would help me gain understanding into what's going on there. I don't think that we get a lot of that. And I think, like Rachel, you were talking about vocabulary. I think that part of the problem is I was listening to someone and they were talking about all these similar issues. They're like, well, these days religion is looked down upon, and for example, you have people that have a feeling of knowledge of a knowledge of divinity are looked down upon. I'm like, what? Religion and a individual mystical experience of the numinous are two very different things, right?
Right. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
But it's just lumping it all in together, and I don't think that that helps us in trying to understand any of this.
Well, and further, like when people do have those experiences, those firsthand experiences, whether they characterize them as altered states of consciousness or a physical experience that happened, in meat space, as it were, um, whether
Which
they
can
talk to a sentient hot dog or something. Um,
happen.
uh,
Screaming, I
people,
have, yet I must scream. That's what that sentient hot dog is saying.
right. Well, it's on its way to the consciousness of the microbiome in the gut, So, um, but well, the more absurd and silly ones, though, people write them off and they discard it, and or if it's considered at all, it's for a laugh, right?
Yeah.
But I've always felt, my whole line of thinking on this for the last, I don't know, decade or two is the most crazy sounding ones probably have something to offer in the way of of figuring out what's behind this whole thing. And it kind of gets to, we were talking about mantids earlier, we talked about weather, we talked about alien intelligences, we talk about Earth intelligence, and this all reminds me of like Ted Owens, who is in psychic contact with a pair of mantids that he called Twitter and Tweeter, that were on, I guess, a starship, a flying saucer somewhere, and they helped him control the weather. Um, and before he was talking to them, he conceived of his abilities as nature. He thought he was
Yeah.
communing with nature. So for Ted Owens, like his concept of nature and nature intelligence was a pair of humanoid mantis-like beings, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's something to that, obviously, because we have so many other accounts where people claim to have met a mantis or had a contact with that kind of communication. And when you tie it all together with like the weather, the atmosphere, the PK abilities, and the consciousness studies, flying saucers, all of that, um, it eerily makes a lot more sense than maybe it would at first glance. Because you have a guy talking about how he can control the direction of hurricanes because he talks to mantids in a flying saucer somewhere. At first pass, that sounds like bonkers, but there's a lot of documentation to back up uh, the effectiveness of his PK and everything. So, it's worth
Hmm.
considering. So it's we keep going around. We could go around in circles with this forever, but there's so much more to it to think about than whatever David Grush is saying now, or that
Yeah,
I hope people
that's
can take
true.
away from these conversations.
Yeah.
Ted Owens, he was very much, if you read, Jeffrey Mishlev has a book on Ted Owens, the PK Man, and his relationship with him. And in the end, Mishlev decides to take Ted Owens' psychic training program, which is like a week of daily hypnosis, guided meditation, giving him certain visualizations, psychic training techniques that then you can go on and practice. But a lot of what the meditations that he gave to Mishlev have to do, basically with attuning yourself with nature.
Hmm.
And then also, that this is like another kind of taboo when it comes to a lot of current discussion, whether it be from disclosure tin can types, military intelligence types, the government has all the answers types, or the people are like, well, this is like a new religion, this is all a bunch of paranormal stuff and everything, which is a lot of people get psychic instruction or end up practicing systems for psychic development and attunement. That's what Ted Owens did. He taught people how to contact, flying saucers, manifest flying saucers, control the weather, break droughts and stuff. And he had developed his own systems of psychic development. And there's a lot of that happening with UFO people and people who have ongoing weird experiences that people don't want to talk about or get involved with because it's like a step too far, even for people who want to entertain strange experiences that people have with flying saucers and entities and telepathy or precognition. But there's a lot of people who, they don't want to talk about people uh, training to facilitate this type of psi expression in their lives, and it sometimes involving non-human intelligence and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, yeah.
Well, I
So,
mean, everybody has to pick what's useful for them, and I tend to think, as much as I get to be dismissive of certain types of thinking, or if I may sound that way, I think it all has a place. I think and I think it's all valuable in its own way, right? So
mm,
I don't mean to be entirely disparaging or say that anybody's wrong, but I think that there's such a variety of ways to look at it that just gets left on the table a lot of the time.
yeah,
Which is kind of sad to me to think of the kinds of fun thought experiments people could be having that they don't want to, you know. And further, like, I don't know, I think people like Chris Bledsoe,
mhm,
he's somebody that a lot of disclosure people kind of attach to as as credible as like and he's basically a modern contactee. It's really
yeah,
strange, and there's a whole religious strain with that. Um, and the thing is, I tend to believe him. I think there's a lot of his experiences that probably he's experiencing something, but I worry that he's being kind of guided and maybe you know uh, led down the garden path, as it were, with by, by certain intervening forces, which is in opposition to the kind of nature that we were talking about earlier that knows how to take care of itself, right? So I don't know.
and
I,
well, these narratives are so powerful, and you always get these elements that want to kind of co-opt them and take all this emotional energy that has been imagery that's behind these encounters and kind of use it for their own purposes. Like that's why people are interested in Bledsoe is because, oh, well, the CIA came and visited him, right? So it
Right.
must mean that it's something important because the CIA came and visited him.
Yeah.
Why, and then he's sitting there and he posts a lot of stuff that is like very obviously camera artifacts that is supposed to be orbs.
Hmm.
And this is another thing is that, well, I was thinking with that we had that drone panic back in 2024.
Right.
And it was fascinating to me because basically every kind of big major faction for how people like to look at UFOs was proven wrong by the drone panic, right?
Right.
Because you have all these people that are paranoid about it, or people that think that they, well, we need to believe the witnesses and what they're saying. And it's like, okay, well, we're believing them. And it's like very obviously, United Airlines, this particular flight, or regular traffic, authorized zones. I was reading today that the government, U.S. government, investigated like 5,000 reports. They didn't find anything anomalous, and it was mostly like authorized drones and regular aircraft and some other kind of misidentifications. I saw it myself on Twitter. You see a ton of people posting stuff and describing what they had seen. And this is where the skeptics kind of fall down, because a lot of skeptics, especially around abductions, like to say, well, people see something and they don't know what it is. And so they go off, and pretty soon they're being abducted by aliens and having sex with Venusians and doing all this stuff.
Mm.
No, a ton of these people, they're just like, I saw something, I didn't know what it was, it freaked me out. Here's photographs of it. This is how I describe it. And because of the evidence that they provide, it's very easy for you to describe, to see what it is that they actually saw, which means that they had a certain degree of accuracy to their observations, right? And
Hmm.
then they weren't running around saying that they'd been kidnapped or anything. They were just kind of stopping with that. They're like, I don't know what this is. It's because
Yeah.
you never looked at the sky before, but they're
Right.
not like going off on this whole panic, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, you know, so it's kind of like everyone was kind of like wrong about it, which is, I think, why it, like, I want to see it kind of, it was like a deflated balloon, and no one really wants to talk about it now because people got any joy out of it, right?
Well, it was embarrassing, frankly. That whole flap
It,
was
it,
so
it,
embarrassing to witness because
this
you're
is,
just like, oh God, these are not my UFO people.
this is what the whole thing with all the it really made me think of the trickster, because it's not
Yeah.
like the trickster comes in and says, oh, like, you were wrong and you were right, or everyone learns this. The trickster is like, let me show you all your own hairy asshole. Right?
Right.
Fun.
Let's muddy that water a little bit more.
Basically, but I think it's fair to say that it really showed how a lot of our current frameworks for approaching this whole very influential part of modern society are really lacking.
Mhm.
You know,
Well, I was thinking about like the balloon as trickster and also owl as trickster, and because it's interesting, like when you think about an owl and like how their body works, they are just like perfectly designed for predation. Like their entire head is like just taken up with like ears and eyes, you know? Like they have like eyes that are so big they can't turn their eyes, so they have to turn their heads. And then their like entire like facial disc acts to like funnel sound into their ears, and their ear, like the ear cavity on an owl is really huge. Like it's kind
Right.
of ridiculous. So like basically like I kind of think like you could almost imagine the owl as like, like what if magicians like just like evolved to do like magic like for millions of years or something? Like they would just turn into these like magic making machines, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And
Well,
and
now I have a new life goal. Become an owl. Hold on, let me
because
write this down.
exactly, but because of that though, like all they really need to do is to catch prey. And so really they become very simplified down, to like meet those goals, because like
Yeah.
any kind of inefficiency, you have to get rid of it or you're not going to survive kind of deal. And balloons are also kind of like that too, like, but they're not evolved. Like they're just like literally just like
Well,
a
not yet.
thing. Well,
not yet.
not yet, that's true. But what I'm saying is like the people invented them as like a toy, as like a spectacle. And so I mean I think there is efficiency there, but not from evolution, but it's from, like our culture of industrial consumer capitalism,
Mhm.
it's very cheap to produce a balloon, but all you got to do is blow it up and then it's just amazing. It's just, there it is. And like and literally all it is this is just like an envelope full of air, but it can do all of this stuff just on its own, and it's not even alive. Like I think that balloons are the perfect trickster. That's what I'm getting at here.
Yeah, maybe.
We're going to talk about that because there's this whole thing of natural selection, but then Darwin also outlined the whole idea of sexual selection, which is like if you have
Right.
some extra energy and leeway in these situations, then you can have birds and male birds who can get very fancy, colorful, singing these gorgeous songs, dancing, performing incredible flight displays, all this type of stuff, none of which is really strictly speaking going to help survival. I mean, like, let's look at, like you're talking about, like voles,
Hmm.
rodents, mice, right. They manage to reproduce a ton and be very successful, and they're not doing all of that.
Yeah.
But somehow there is this element of like art and attraction that female birds apparently have been driving for these however many millions of years. Um, where all things other things being equal, they'll go for the fancy guy, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which has created like all this stuff, which is kind of like extra stuff that doesn't really have to happen. And balloons kind of remind me of that too, because there's practical reasons for them, but then also it's just wow, you have this like real colorful thing, like you can up in the sky you can look at, or you can like go up there and then just like have this whole different angle of sensory experience of the landscape. So
Mm.
Hmm.
some of it is just, I think, if there's kind of extra room or extra energy that someone can work within a system, then you can have these kind of more just like aesthetic experiences. I mean, people try and map onto, um, and I think there's a certain degree of it, uh, bird attractiveness as a proxy for fitness in breeding and stuff like that. But I don't know that it's like a super clean proxy.
Yeah.
I
But
mean, balloons too. A lot of balloons are just sold to like, retail company, or I mean, no, that's not what am I thinking of? Realty companies,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
because they'll just like put balloons out front and like car dealerships and stuff like that. They just use balloons for advertising.
Mm.
Yeah, like searchlights at night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Mm.
know. Very weird. I don't know. It seems like we should have had some type of conclusion by now, but I'm feeling like it's just kind of like in the center of it, it's just a bunch of hot air.
Well, I feel like
We're
we had.
talking. There's a
I
lot
feel
of threads going around. I feel like.
right. Yeah. No, I feel like we had like several conclusions. Like there were a couple points where, you know, we probably could have put a cap on it and just said like, all right, well, but then there's always more threads to pull on, and that's kind of the beauty of it. And I
Yeah.
guess on this eve of we're recording on the eve of the Kenneth Arnold Day, the flying saucer sighting anniversary. Uh, I felt like it was a good time to for me to talk to my two of my favorite people to talk UFOs with because
Oh.
I wanted to try to encourage the audience to think about these things. There's a million different ways to think about it. Like we've outlined some really crazy ones, some really thoughtful ones, some really nuanced ones. But there's so many directions you can go,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so many of them are so much more fascinating than whatever is happening in a Senate hearing or a skiff or whatever.
Mhm. Yeah.
Or the whole UFOs or demons thing, which we didn't even touch on. But
Oh
um,
God.
yeah,
I was a good synchronicity today because I was trying to prepare, and just with everything going on, I wasn't doing a good job of coming up with like weird stuff to talk about. So there's someone I met through a particular online through a particular interest group, and in that interest group, we realized that we had actually another interest in common. Um, so they sent me today. I was thinking, I don't have anything weird to talk about. They said, I just heard about this crazy conspiracy involving a certain type of cactus. And the idea is that it is a cactus which is secretly psychoactive.
mm,
But I don't know if it's like the government is suppressing this information, or if like people who want to protect these plants are suppressing the information that it is actually a hallucinogen because they want to protect the plants. They don't want people going in there and ripping these plants apart. Or my preferred theory, that the cactuses themselves keep their psychedelic properties secret
yeah,
from, from human beings.
I
right,
like it. My
Like,
favorite.
no.
yeah.
Just
Well,
keeping
they
it to the
project, they psychically project, like, no, nothing to see here, man.
yeah, unless you're like kind of. Well, I was telling Anthony about it. He's like, "What?" It's like you need to like just stand next to him, and then they kind of like psychically, vibe you secretly with their hallucinogenic vibration properties, which would be kind of
No,
actually.
that's what the psychoactive substance does, is it
Yes,
controls your mind into thinking that it's not psychoactive. So the cactus
Right.
wants you to eat
That's what
it.
I'm saying. Yeah.
It's
oh man, I was telling this person, I'm like, man, I said this is like perfect timing because I was just trying to think of something crazy to talk about. This is pretty wild, and it like kind of sparks a lot of ideas. Like, what does this mean? What could these
Yeah.
plants be up to? Where did
so
like
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's so much cool stuff. I think my main recommendation, instead of like doing some disclosure crap, just read a book, you know?
Right.
Watch your
Or,
neighbors, the plants and animals, and your bird friends. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
And really, any book or any movie, if you got UFOs on the brain, it can help you like contextualize it in some way you didn't think of, right? So
Yeah.
That's
I find
true.
that to be the case. And I was
Yeah.
watching like literally anything, and I'm like, oh, that makes me think of this UFO thing in a way I didn't think of it before.
Me too. I
Yeah,
I actually can totally relate to that. Like I'll be
right.
watching like a sitcom or something,
Yeah.
like
I know.
well,
Next,
what Joey did to Ross there just really makes me think of UFOs.
yeah, Jane Austen UFO edition come up.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
They persuade. There's a lot of naval officers and men sailing the ships on the sea, which could be possibly mapping onto that whole thing because she was writing during the time of the Napoleonic Wars, so
oh yeah.
it could possibly have something to do with that. I don't know. I'm going to be looking at these things from a different angle in the future.
There was
Yep.
like I think it might have been after Jane Austen's time. I'm gonna have to find it, but there actually was a balloon bombing in France or somewhere like that in like the mid 19th century, which I think is just totally nuts.
Yeah, they're just
Hmm.
terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible, but I just think it's fascinating, that
Yeah, it's like their first inclination. Let's blow
Mhm.
something up
Yeah, yeah.
in the air.
And there's like satire, there's like satirical comment. I don't remember who the author was, but it's like from the 1830s or something like that. And it's like, just like a broad sheet or whatever. It's like a big cartoon on it.
Mhm.
And like there's a whole series of them, and they're kind of silly, and one of them I just remember there's literally like a ship, being held up by balloons, dropping bombs on a ship in a bay. And it's
Hmm.
and I mean, it's just spot on. Like
Yeah,
this, I don't remember who the guy was, but he really had his finger on the pulse of futurism, I think. Because that's
yeah,
Yeah.
basically like that's like Elon Musk in a nutshell right there, you know.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
Hmm.
how can we exploit this to the just worst possible extent
Right.
Yeah.
possible?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Only apparently they did it competently. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I think that might be a good place to leave it because well, we've been going for a little while now, and this has been a blast. I hope listeners stuck with us. I'm sure they did because this is you never know what we're going to end up talking about. So um,
Well, thank you
uh,
for having us on, and Rachel especially. I was excited to hear what you'd have to say today. I was not disappointed. So,
Oh, thank you. It's so
yeah.
wonderful to talk to you both. Thank you, AP. And you had a lot of really st interesting stuff to bring in
Oh
up
yeah.
as well, Stephanie. Sorry, I'm having trouble talking.
yeah, interesting stuff all around. I feel a little scatterbrained today, and I think maybe we all are. But yeah, I think it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a vibe. It's a vibe, as the kids say. So if listeners want to find you both online, do you want to throw out any socials and stuff that people can look you up?
Um, Visit me at UFO Sunset.
Right.
Just find a UFO sunset and I will be there.
Oh,
Steph.
right. What was I going to say? Or Green Flash rather. I'm on Facebook. It's just Stephanie Quick. I'm also on Blue Sky and Instagram. stephaniequick.home.blog is my or .wordpress is my blog. It's kind of inactive, but there's like a contact page with like my socials and email on it if people are interested. So,
Okay. Awesome. Well,
mm.
thank you both for coming on. This was a lot of fun.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Take care.
Everybody have fun skipping like a saucer on the surface of water tomorrow.
That's
Will
right.
do. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
All right.